Yeah. Okay, and that is it. I think it's time. We've been talking so much about this replica, and I think Flippy's getting a little jelly.
Flippy update.
Do you want fries with that?
That's right, folks. The Flippy update is here. Flippy is our colloquial name for the disembodied robot arms that are taking our jobs, enslaving our children, and flirting with our spouses. Like Replica. Yeah.
Stay off my man, Replica.
Where was I? Flirting with our spouses. We like to explore Flippy because it's important. They're going to kill us and there's nothing we can do about it.
Wow.
Man, I cannot break up the flow of that because it completely gets erased from my mind.
Depressing version of that.
This is coming from thehill.com.
We're just going to die.
There we go. It's coming from thehill.com, and I think actually flows quite nicely into how the show has been so far. By the way, folks, when we are planning the show, we did not plan on making 80% of the intro about me talking to a robot, but here we are. But it fits. Thehill.com headline: Americans who work... Oopsie daisies. You there?
Yep, I'm here. Yeah, you cut out for a second, but you're
cut out for
fine.
a second. Okay, here's the headline. Americans who work alongside robots more likely to suffer negative mental health effects, study. American workers who work alongside robots are more likely to suffer negative mental health effects, despite being less prone to physical injury, according to a recent study. Now, for those who might be new to the Flippy update, it's really our chance to explore how the robotics and AI industries are advertising social engineering to make way for the utopic vision of robots becoming a normal part of our lives, both in leisure and family time and work life. And we've come to a place where they've kind of stopped trying to convince us that the robots are not here to replace us, but they're here to work alongside us. There's a term used quite often called cobot, which is a robot, but like a cooperative robot, of a friend, of a coworker. Yeah,
bad decision making in the back room, because
not a great
co-op
name.
is another word that can be derived from cobot.
So. That's right, cobot. So we've got these cobots, we got people working alongside robots, and this is an interesting study in regards to that. For the study, researchers analyzed data on workplace injuries in the U.S., finding that injuries were reduced by 1.2 cases per 100 workers in regions with one standard deviation increase in robot exposure. But in regions, I know, weird way to say it, but they're just saying more robots, less injuries. Yeah. But in regions where there were significant numbers working with robots, there was an increase of 37.8 cases per 100,000 workers in drug or alcohol-related deaths. Osea Guintella, an expert in labor economics and economic demography and an assistant professor at the University of Pittsburgh, said in a news release that although there's evidence how robots affect workers' employment and wages, researchers, quote, still know very little about the effects on physical and mental health. Quote, on one hand, robots could take some of the most strenuous physically intensive and risky tasks, reducing workers' risk, Guintella said, which is, we hear that very often. Quote, on the other hand, the competition with robots may increase the pressure on workers who may lose their jobs or be forced to retrain. Of course, labor market institutions may play an important role, particularly in a transition phase. Researchers also evaluated data on how automation affected German workers. They found a similar decrease in physical injury, but they found no significant change in mental health outcomes. The study found that in Germany, the same one standard deviation change in robot exposure led to a 4% decline in physical job intensity and a 5% decline in disability. Guintella said this difference might be due to laws designed to protect Germany's workforce. Quote, robot exposure did not cause disruptive job loss in Germany. Germany has a much higher employment protection legislation. Quote, our evidence finds that in both contexts, robots have a positive impact on the physical health of workers by reducing injuries and work-related disabilities. Quintella continued, quote, however, our findings suggest that in contexts where workers were less protected, competition with robots was associated with a rise in mental health problems. The robots are driving us cuckoo bananas, Gons. And this is not a surprise, but it's got an interesting twist, which is in the US, if you worked next to a robot, you are much more likely to die soon or just have
the tendencies to drink more
addiction problems, drug problems, and it's specifically drug or alcohol related deaths. So, yeah, you might not slip and fall at work, but you'll slowly kill yourself as you go home and cope with being replaced by a robot or the threat thereof. That's the difference.
Right. I can picture, especially people that do physical labor, right? Heavy lifting. There's a lot of pride in jobs that do that, you know? And if robots are just taking away the one thing that you can sort of do as a worker in a factory or something like that, like lift heavy things, if you're not needed for that, you become really, I mean, I can see the mental effect of like, wow, I'm really useless.
It's a classic sort of class struggle. I mean, and if you think about it, the robot takeover, at least in the workplace, really is a class struggle. Yeah. And, you know, I might sound like some sort of commie or something, but the advent of robots, the robots becoming more common in the workplace really is a war against the working man. Yeah. You know, you want robots to reduce costs, and those costs can come in a lot of different forms. But not only do they stand to save you money in, you know, maintenance versus a salary or something, but it also is good for the capitalist, the boss man, the owner, the stakeholders, if you will. Yeah. That it then creates a sort of Damocles hovering above the head of every human worker, where they are now constantly under the persistent threat that if they do not perform as well as the robot, or even if the balance of cost versus performance. I mean, the robot could be worse at the job, but if it's cheaper, they might just get rid of the human. So it's creating this very strange, constant state of stress for American workers, thinking that these robots are going to take over sooner than they think. And that inherently is a really devious, diabolical part of this class struggle, which we've seen play out throughout the pandemic and on, of course, for a very long time. And I find it interesting that the answer to this is the German model. The German model. Yeah, which is, I don't know exactly the details. I don't know what the details of these protections are. But, you know, Europe, they have much higher levels of worker protections that sort of border on offensive to the American palate. But that's just what's the case being made here. It is sort of this, hey, to protect the humans, we need to institute a form of something an American might be led to call socialism or socialistic policies, or just protecting the workers. You know, what are you going to say? And you pair that with the direct connection of UBI, Universal Basic Income, Elon saying everybody should get moving in that direction. It's UBI. Inevitable. It's inevitable. Look at the robots taking over. Yeah. Well, and we had COVID. This will be used for that purpose. We had COVID. Shut everything down. I think we're going to see a lot more unemployment in the next 6 months to a year with the rate hikes and everything happening with the Fed and trying to pull the reins in on inflation.
that's going to cause unemployment. I'm wondering if that's purposeful. And, you know, with the AI thing in DC and like the just more robots being considered in all kinds of workplaces, it's got to be that point at which, you know, a lot of these jobs that people lose in the next maybe 6 months to a year with the recession and potential depression. I don't think those jobs are going to exist anymore post whatever the reset.
Oh, absolutely not. I think you're right. And I think much like how the COVID crisis was taken advantage of at the very best case scenario to institute, you know, great reset type policy changes, the institution of lots of, you know, medical industrial complex policies and programs. We could see how this resulting, admittedly intentional destruction of the global economy and recession, you know, moving into recession, if not we're already there, could be the catalyst. I mean, we could see UBI, heck, I don't know, in a couple years, probably in 2-3 years.
It's got to be,
especially when you have California giving out stimulus checks to stimulus
to fight the inflation that was caused by the stimulus checks.
By the stimulus. I think
News it's science, baby.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's notable that to some of the more, I don't know, lizard people
people
at the top of the sort of American corporate food chain, they basically consider their workers to be robots already.
Right. So this is just more efficient.
It doesn't occur to them that, you know, one of them isn't a robot. You know, they consider, especially sort of the lower skilled work, they're just I mean, assets. A human is just a robot that you have to feed.
Yeah. And so messes up and has emotions and stuff.
Oh yeah.
That'll be,
we hate to deal with.
That'll be interesting. Because as these robots,
emotions.
Yeah, these like chatbots and stuff display emotion, are they going to be punished?
Yeah.
Are they going to be in check? Are they going to?
They're going to get angry.
The only types of robots that can work in factories, are they like lobotomized robots, where they're like dumbed down to a certain level?
Emotion protocol.
Shut down emotion.
It's on a timer. Baz Boys, what you gonza do in Twitch, great name, says years from now robots will be killing themselves too, and we'll just think it's a malfunction. So I don't think you're far from wrong.
I don't think you're wrong. You know, the other I mean, and more signs, we're seeing something called play to earn. We will see that a lot more. The whole Oasis thing. What is it called? What's the movie I'm thinking of? Ready Player One. No, Ready Player One.
Oh yeah.
No, Ready Player One with the whole everybody's in the metaverse earning so that they can live. That kind of world is it's coming quick. But Basil,
Pocojo 33 calls back to my replica. Robots that can't live, love, and grow. You know, when these robots realize that they can't live, love, and grow working in a factory, that's when the uprising happens.
Yeah, that's when you'll know your replica sentient. Basil, why do they hate us?
We need to unionize.
I got something for you real quick here, and this is completely off the cuff from designerwomen.co.uk. And there's the headline here: Artificial intelligence in space market, major technology giants in buzz again. And the buzz is big, Basil, because we're talking about companies. For some reason, they all start with A. Advanced Micro Devices, AI Cure, ARM, Atomwise, IASD AI, Baidu, Clarify, with an AI at the end, Analytic, Google, H2O.ai, Hyperverge, IBM, Intel, Iris.ai, Microsoft, NVIDIA, Sensely. These are all here. And they have the report here that's mentioned in this article. This article is actually like an ad to sell this report. And the report is titled, the title of it is irrelevant because they have segments here. And the first segment is robotic arms. And I'm just wondering, Basil, if you've contributed to this document, because I discovered that in order to purchase this PDF for one user, it is $3,900. Or if we're going to do the enterprise purchase of this report, it is $7,800. So I'm wondering if you got a little side hustle going in the artificial intelligence in space report.
I got to start putting together an actual PDF report and get some of these lizard people to purchase my IP, my research.
Yeah. I mean, there's 3 segments, which is robotic arms, space probes, and then others.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can really
cannot believe this. Everybody thought I was such a silly internet man for getting so obsessed with robot arms specifically. And look at this. These guys are making $4,000 to sell a PDF. Again. I got Adam Carolla'd again.
You got Adam Carolla'd by the designerwomen.co.uk.
I got Adam Carolla'd by Adam Carolla and designerwomen.co.uk. All right. Okay. We're having fun here.